Today we're starting chapter 11, which is the statistics chapter, and we begin with the easy stuff, mainly dealing with mean, median, mode, and so on. So we need our notebooks to write down a lot of definitions again to start out this chapter. First thing we need to talk about is something called measure of center. Measures of center are also called measures of central tendency. So if you hear me say that phrase, measures of central tendency, those are the three values that are used to talk about the middle of a set of data. And those three things are the mean, median, and mode. So these three things are called the measures of center. The mean has a symbol. That symbol is right here. It's an X with the bar over the top. Whenever you find average, remember you add up your numbers and divide by how many. The median is the number in the middle when you list them in order from small to big. So that's the key, is that they have to go from small to big, then you pick out the number in the middle. The mode is the number that turns up the most. Sometimes you might have no mode if you don't have any numbers that repeat. Sometimes you might have a couple numbers that are the mode if they both show up the most amount of times. So measures of center or measures of central tendency are the mean, median, and mode. We also have something that is called a dispersion. So this is a new word for most of you, I would imagine. A dispersion is a statistic that tells you how spread out your data is. There's two values that we use to talk about dispersion. The first one is called the range, and that's the difference between the high value minus the low value. And the other one is called standard deviation. Standard deviation is the average of the differences of any data value and the mean. Now there is a big, huge formula to figure out standard deviation, but we are going to let our calculator do all the work for us, and we are going to look for this symbol right here. This is the Greek symbol sigma. So on our calculators, I'll show you where to find that. So we have three measures of center, mean, median, and mode, and we have two measures of dispersion, which is range and standard deviation. Sometimes they add a third measure of spread in, and that is called the interquartile range, abbreviated IQR. That's the difference between the Q3 minus the Q1 value. Now we're going to talk about this more at length tomorrow when we talk specifically about a box and whisker plot. But for right now, the Q3 value is the median of the top half of your data, and Q1 represents the median of the bottom half of your data. So again, your numbers have to be in order from small to big. You pick the middle, and then once you pick the middle, you've got two halves of data, top half and a bottom half. If you divide the bottom half in half, that would be called Q1, and if you divide the top half in half, that would be called Q3. All right, so on our calculator, so by the way, you need a graphing calculator for this today, we're going to enter some data, and then we're going to try to figure out these summary values, these 5 and sometimes 6, if we include the interquartile range summary values. So the list we're going to be dealing with is the numbers 10, 4, 7, 11, 8, 12, 9, 8, 9. On your calculator, the way we put numbers into a list is we go to the stat button. So write down these calculator how-to steps, and then I'll bring up my calculator and we'll do it together. Go to the stat button, hit edit, and it's going to show up as list 1. We're going to enter the numbers into our list. Then if you want, you can put the numbers in order, and there's a command that will allow you to do that. We'll go to our stat button again, and then we're going to choose the button that says sort A. A stands for ascending, so we're going to sort the list in ascending, and then we'll have to tell it which list we are in, and we're going to be putting our numbers into list 1. Now to pull out the information we're looking for, all of these statistics, we are going to again go back to the stat button. Stat button is used all the time with these in this particular chapter. We go back to the stat button, we arrow over once to calculate, Then we choose the button that says 1 var stats, which stands for 1 variable statistics, and then hit enter. Once we do that, we will be able to pull up all of the information that we are looking for. Okay, so I'm going to pull up my calculator, and then we're going to go to following this list, we're going to go to the edit button, and we'll be able to enter our information. Okay, so we go to the stat button. Choice number 1 is edit, so just hit enter, and here are your lists. If you need to remove any numbers that might be in your list, all you have to do is hit the up arrow, hit the clear button and the enter button, and it erases all the numbers automatically for you. You can arrow over and arrow up and do the same thing if you have numbers in a different list. Alright, so now you need to enter the numbers that I had written out for you before into your lists. And remember, when you do this, you just type one number at a time and then hit enter. So 9, enter, 10, enter, and so on. You go ahead and do that. I'm going to put this on pause and do mine also. Okay, so I had said the couple first numbers incorrectly. So the numbers I believe off our list were 10, 4, 7, 11, 8, 12, 9, 8, 9. Once you have your numbers in your list, again, if you go back and look at your little calculator how-to steps, real quick, calculator how-to steps, we got our edit numbers in. We can sort the numbers in order if we go back to our stat button and then look for sort A. Stat button. Choice number 2 is sort A, but now it's blinking because it's asking you which list do we want to be sorted. If you look above your number 1, you should see the numbers L1. That stands for list 1. So go second, number 1, it says L1, close parenthesis, hit enter, and it should say the word done. So now when we go back to our stat edit button, it should have taken the numbers and listed them in order for us. We're going to use this list right here to help us get the range. Range, remember, is high number minus low number. Our high is 12 and our low is 4, so we'll be doing 12 minus 4. Okay, so now let's go to our directions again. We sorted. I'm going to just write this in here real quick. Range was 12 minus 4, so we know our range is 8. That's the one value that you have to do a manual subtraction on. Your calculator won't do the range for you. Now, how do we get the rest of it, the information? Stat button, calculate, and then 1 var stats. Stat button, arrow over once to calculate, and then choice number 1 is 1 var stats. We are going to take all the information from list number 1, and we can go ahead and calculate. Alright, so this is the information that we're looking for. Here's our x with the bar over the top. That's our mean, 8.66 repeating. We could just call it 8.7. I'm going to come back to my list here. Mean, 8.7. The next number we're going to look for is our sigma value. Sigma value is right here, 2.21. That's our standard deviation. Standard deviation, 2.1. Oh, excuse me, 2.21. I'll go back and fix this in a second. Okay, now if you use your down arrow, you'll see that there are more things that are down here below. So we've got Q1, we've got our median, we've got Q3, we've got our maximum. We want the Q3 and the Q1 values, so we need 10.5, 7.5 for Q3 and Q1. Q3, Q1, 10.5 minus 7.5, so our interquartile range is 3. And remember, I was going to change this, 2.21 or 2.2. We need our median and we need our mode. Median, remember, is the number in the middle when you put them in order. And we can find our median. That's listed for us. That's 9. Mode is the other number that is not listed in our calculator. So if we look on this list here, max, Q3, median, Q1, min, 9, we had 9 numbers in our data set. If you go back up and look at the top, you see there's no mode listed here. So in order to find the mode, you're going to have to go back to your list and find the number in the middle. So go to your stat button and edit. Here's our numbers, remember. We have them in order. We're looking for the mode. Mode means we have to go from the bottom and from the top. We're counting in, looking for the number in the middle. So if you start jumping, 12, 4, 11, 7, 10, 8, 9, 8, 9, number in the middle. So that would be the median, I'm sorry. Mode is the number that shows up the most. I'm on the right track here. Mode is the number that shows up the most. So again, when you look at this list right here, which numbers are repeating? We've got 2 8s, we've got 2 9s. Both of them repeat the same amount of time. So we can go back and we list our mode as both of those numbers, 8 and 9. That median that I was doing where we jumped from the bottom to the top and worked our way in, we came up with 9. That was your median value right there. Okay, so again, the big thing here is that you're putting your numbers into your list, changing out your list every time, and always, we're going back to this stat button. That helps us get everything. Okay, let's try another one. Here's a new set of data values, 17, 20, 16, 18, 22, 19, and 20. We want to go into our calculators and change out our list. We're going to try to find the 3 measures of center and the 2 measures of spread. We'll also add in that IQR value. All right, so I'm going to put mine on pause for a second and pull up the numbers. You go ahead and change out your list as well. Once you have your numbers entered, it's always a good idea to take a look at them, make sure you didn't type something incorrectly. Maybe you typed in the 20 and it showed up as 200. That would definitely throw things off, so you want to be careful about that. Okay, so if you want to sort this, remember, stat, choice number 2, sort ascending, list number 1. It should say the word done. Go back and look at it, hit your stat button and enter. They are now sorted. You can look at this list right now and see what the mode is. The only number that shows up twice is 20, so our mode is going to be 20. Mean, median, mode, 20. Let's go back and look at the high and the low, 22 and 16. Measures of spread would be range, standard deviation, 22 minus 16. So our range is 6. And then we can use our stat button to try to find the rest of the things that we're looking for. So we'll do stat, arrow over to calc. Choice number 1 is 1 variable statistics, and calculate. Hopefully everybody is coming up with the same answers. Your mean, 18.85, we'll say 18.9. Mean, 18.9. Standard deviation, 1.88, we'll call it 1.9. Arrow down. There's your median, 19. We're also going to need Q1 and Q3. That's going to calculate our IQR for us. Let's write down the median number first. That's 19. And then your interquartile range, Q3 minus Q1. Q3 is 20, Q1 is 17. 20, 17, interquartile range is 3. So the range is spread out from high to low by 6, but the interquartile range is spread apart by 3. All right, so that's all of your information that we're looking for. Now, can you add a new data value of 3, recalculate the measures of center only, mean, median, and mode? Which one is the most affected by the outliers, by the outlier of the 3? So a new data value is added. we're going to go back to our list. We're going to just go to the bottom of our list, stat, enter. We're going to go to the bottom of our list, and we're going to add in a new number, 3, enter. Now we recalculate. Stat, arrow over to calc, choice number 1, calculate. We're looking for a new mean, a new median, and a new mode. So our new mean, 16.87, 16.9. New mean, 16.9. Median and mode. Let's take a look at the median value. Arrow down, median, 18.5. And the mode. Now remember, mode means the number that shows up the most often. If we go back and look at our list again, what number shows up the most often? Again, 20 is the only number that repeats. So my mode, still 20. So now I need to look at these 3 measures of center compared to the other 3. Here's my mean, my median, 19 versus 18 and a half, and the mode of 20 versus 20. Which one is most affected by putting in an outlier, a number way far away from the rest of the data? Well, the mode is the exact same thing, so that one's not affected at all. The median only changed by half, but the mean was much more of a difference. So this question, which measure of center is most affected by an outlier? This answer is pretty much always the mean. Your mean is always most affected when you're adding in a new value. It's called an outlier. That's a number that's way far away from the rest of the data values. This is a question that I believe might show up in one of your homework assignment questions. Which measure of center is most affected when you add in an outlier? And that answer would always be the mean. All right, I do believe that's it for this particular section. Very calculator heavy, mean, median, and mode using your stat button all the time. All right, you can go ahead and get started on this section.